Fascinating.
Russ has something fascinating.
All right, now there's a lot of pressure, but I found a tweet literally like 10 minutes ago from a guy named John Thorne, and he has a website called ourgame.mlblogs.com, and he's found out now that there was a game called BACE, B-A-C-E, that started in New York City in 1805. Okay. Now, just to give people some background, like I wrote a book, Pioneers of Baseball, that deals with the late 1890s, and I did a lot of research, and never once did I come across this game called BACE.
I know the editor on that one, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, and so there's stuff in the Saturday Evening Post about it. There's little blurbs about it, and it doesn't seem like it was baseball. But what we have to remember is the game that was really popular was cricket. Like that was the old game that had a ball and that mallet thing. It's not like a bat, but they swing it like a bat. And so this one, I haven't really been able to get a feel for exactly what it is yet, but it does show like a ball and a bat.
Wow.
So, I don't know, or is that, that's an old picture. No, I'm not sure that's actually from it, but it's interesting that there was a game like this in New York City when the city, was a lot slower. And they played, and they show it playing in like the gardens, but they don't show like what the field looks like. They don't show what the players look like.
So would you say this is a precursor of stickball or a precursor of baseball?
It's a good question.
Probably stickball since it's in the city.
Yeah, early 1800s, you're saying though?
1805.
Yeah. So that's like New Amsterdam time, right?
Isn't they said the garden was.
No, that's 1600.
No, yeah, that's too early. The garden was enclosed by a fence. And there was maintain a bat alley. So it's like there is baseball talk there a little bit.
It sounds like a hybrid of cricket and baseball.
Yeah.
And I remember, in New York in 1805, this is right after the Revolutionary War. There's a lot of English and, a lot of immigrants haven't come over yet. It's mostly English.
Well, and there's some sort of thing here, and I hope I'm getting it right, that maybe cricket wasn't even allowed to be played in New York because it was associated with countries that, they didn't get along with. Okay. So anyhow, some game named BACE in 1805 before baseball.
Yeah, and I play the bass.
Interesting. You guys, when you were younger, did you have your gym teacher that told you that soccer was started by like a guy kicking a dead head around and all that stuff?
No.
That was our gym teachers in
That's funny.
We were convinced, so I'm not sure if that's true, but
Here were the weird things we heard growing up. And this one's true. Like hockey, they play with frozen cow poop. We know that.
Right.
Golf, it was sticks and rocks, and the village idiots would play it, and people would laugh at them. Which again is kind of like golf. I don't know.
Changed much.
It hasn't changed a lot.
Curling was cats, right? Dead cats. That was the other thing, but
I don't know about that.
You believe that's true?
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's a Scotland thing, I think. Curling is
okay.
Scotland.
Hurling, yes. Hurling, well, no, it's in Ireland. Because I watched the hurling championships when I was in Ireland for a short time. They had them on TV, and I watched like a half hour of it. And basically, it's like your town against my town, and nobody makes any money. It's like shown like the Super Bowl, so there's somebody's making money. And you go out there and you kill each other for the day, and there's a ball, and you kind of run like so. It is a little bit like rugby-ish.
What is that game that they play where they play like? It is like hockey, but it's a giant game, like 15 on 15, like 11 on 11 hockey. You've heard about that one? There is this game. It's I think it's in Russia. I can't remember the name of it, but where they play like almost like on a soccer-sized lake, like soccer field-sized lake. Yes. What was it?
I don't know.
It's called Gulag football.
I gotta find out. I know I've seen this before. I've seen it, actually watched it.
No. Terry is saying curling. I'm talking about hurling.
Not hurling, no. And hurling has a double meaning. Hurling is that game, and it's also me on a Saturday night after having too many shots. Hurling.
Right.
Let's start the show.
Let's move on. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, February 26th, 2024.
I'm Michael Lagello, and you're not.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael, and you're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes to you to talk to you about all the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we've got trade rumors to talk about today. We've got all kinds of interesting things happening in the standings. The standings are getting kind of fascinating. We have Patrick Kane's big return.
And we're 11 days from the deadline.
We're 11 days in the trade deadline, yeah. And it's starting to really heat up. And I thought we could start with Patrick Kane for a second, just because that was quite a thing last night.
Yeah, Russ.
Okay.
Patrick Kane has turned out to have quite a hell of a year. Now he is on a 1-year contract, but and it's interesting that he's not on. I just put him on the rumor chart because I heard a rumor about him today for the first time, which is really ironic.
Okay.
In Russ's defense,
Yeah, I didn't say he was going to stink this year.
No. This is the Patrick Kane that he wished the Rangers had traded for.
Yeah, but I knew they didn't. But the thing was, I didn't say he was going to stink this year.
Yeah.
My question was, can he play this year without injury? And for the most part, he has. So he's been better than I thought. I'll agree with that.
And I know that's I've seen some online bemoaning of the fact that that Patrick Kane, if Patrick Kane had come to Buffalo, they'd be in the playoff race right now. And it's like, guys, how many times do we have to say it? The Sabres were in on him. They tried to sign him. He doesn't want to come to Buffalo.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't want to come to Buffalo. Not yet. I mean, maybe.
No. It's not the not yet. It's the fact that
Too much baggage.
when he's been in Buffalo, he has gotten in trouble, and he doesn't want.
Time ago, Mike. It was a long time ago.
There's reasons.
It's not recent that he's gotten in trouble.
No. I mean, but
I'm talking about at least 10 years ago.
Sure. But what I'm saying, is that would be brought up, and that would be a
brought up. But I think it would be pretty much like he's not a kid anymore. I mean, Patrick.
No, he's not a kid. But I don't think it's something he wants to deal with. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, he's got a certain arrogance to him, which is what any player like that has.
Yeah. Anybody who saw the overtime goal and when he did the.
Oh yeah.
There's your arrogance. I mean, he's justified because he's a 3-time Cup winner. But gee.
Yeah.
That was quite something. The crowd was going nuts for him in Chicago. But he's an interesting thought because Detroit could make the playoffs. I mean, they've got a really serious shot.
They're making the playoffs.
You think they're making the playoffs?
Oh yeah, they're one of the wild card teams. No doubt.
Still, Mike, their defense and goaltending, it could break down.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you're assuming they're close enough to make the playoffs that they wouldn't consider trading Patrick Kane. But reality is that he is the kind of year he's having right now. If they fell out of it, they would get something for him.
If they fell out of it, but I mean, where they are right now, and they're not going to fall out of it in the next 11 days. Even if they lost the next 5 games, they're still going to be either in a playoff spot or within a point or two. So I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, next year, if he has this year, finishes it out, makes the playoffs, he could write his own ticket for next year at free agency.
Well, this year, you mean this summer? You mean he's only
right? I mean, there is a big belief, and I heard them mentioning this with XM today too. But this has been going on for a while that that he could return to Chicago very easily. And
yeah,
I think that's a better than even odds.
I don't know why he would. Why would he do that?
Why would he?
Yeah,
he loves it there. I mean, he lives there. I mean, that's his home.
But hear me out. They're not going to make the playoffs,
right?
He has a legendary following there. Now he's going to have to play second fiddle to Connor Bedard. That's generally a great player like Kane doesn't want to have to deal with another up and coming great player like Bedard. Just go back to Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio. And it goes through time. Go back to Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. Why would he want to do that?
I think there's a little bit of Tom Brady in Kane in the sense that he would like to go somewhere and win on his own terms, and he's not going to do that in Chicago. I mean, he can get paid again because they have tons of cap space, but really, it's sort of a been there, done that. It's like, I mean, last night was something where he came in. I'm the man. I won 3 cups. He's still loved there. He'll always be loved there. And they were cheering the Detroit Red Wings, which is something that you wouldn't think Blackhawk fans would do.
No, that's totally crazy.
Right. So I mean, I could see him next year because if he re-signs in Detroit, are they going to win the cup in the next couple of years? Probably not. I mean, I think they're an improving team, but
Yeah, they're improving.
It's New York, it's Boston, it's Vegas or Colorado, it's Toronto, it's one of those 5 or 6 teams, maybe Dallas. He can go anywhere he wants.
Yeah, Florida. I would keep an eye on
Florida, but Florida's not going to have the money. He's going to want Patrick.
He's going to want to pay. You want to get paid.
Yeah, but I mean, Florida's got some money coming off the books this year, so
they got a lot of coming off the books, but still,
he's going to want like $7 million though.
It's a question of who they re-signed. But remember, they've got Forsling, Montour, and Reinhardt all UFA.
Yeah, I think you're talking about $7 million for like 4 years. He's going to want something like that, 7 or 8.
I think 3 years because remember he's 35.
I think
he's not gonna. He's gonna try and get more than.
He'll try to get as much as he can. Don't get me wrong.
Try to get it. I mean, maybe the Vegas would give it to him, possibly, but they don't really necessarily have the money either. But Vegas right now is an interesting team to transitioning to trade rumors. Vegas is a team you really have to look at.
Oh yes.
Basically, now Eichel and Stone both out, right? Both on LTIR at the moment.
Yeah, but Stone, there's a suspicion that it might be until game 1 of the playoffs. So Eichel, it sounds like he'll come back at some point before the end of the season.
It sounds like it, but it's not a definitive thing, and it doesn't have to be at all if they're solidly in the playoffs. So it's to them. I mean, that opens up a ton of money for them.
Yeah, $19.5 million
to do something here at a trade deadline, and they've shown before that they'll do that. This is nothing new. Like they won on Stone being hurt. They've done this before. So this is the loophole that I hate the most in the NHL. I have to say.
I love. You shouldn't hate it. I could actually
hate it. Listen, as a hockey rumor guy, I love it. I agree with you that. But just in terms of what it's for the good of the game, I think it's terrible. I think it's brutal because
it's terrible for the game. It really is.
It really is bad for the game, and it's very unfair in so many ways. It ends up being a situation.
Why is it unfair?
Because
both these guys are legitimately hurt. Maybe they're not hurt until April the 15th.
No, but that's the thing. Okay, so this time of the year, half your team is legitimately hurt, but they're still playing games.
So if you're in a situation,
raises his hand and says, I'll go out until the start of the whatever because mine's pretty bad.
Yeah,
that's the perception. Whether that's true or not, I think that's the perception that Eck and I have.
Yeah, I don't think that's
teams win the Stanley Cup because of it. Twice now we've seen it happen, and that to me is another issue. That's just this should not be. To me, I don't understand why a salary cap doesn't continue into the playoffs. That's just my thing. I don't understand it. I don't understand why that would be a case that you wouldn't still have a salary cap in the playoffs. Like I think that is what. That would get rid of this whole loophole, obviously. If they could make, because these guys, if they knew that Eichel and Stone could possibly come back for the playoffs, wouldn't they rather have him than say Getsel?
But I don't want to get rid of the loophole because honestly, what this is pre-2004 allowing teams that have money to actually spend it. So if there's a player that's hurt and you're on Vegas or Colorado or Toronto, and those players go on LTIR, you can spend that money. And if you're in a small market like Winnipeg or Carolina, because the league is keeping it this way and because the PA wants to keep it this way, they're both saying, screw you, spend the money. If you want to compete for the Stanley Cup, spend the money. That's what they're saying. And I don't have a problem with that. It's a meritocracy.
It is, but I think that explain what exactly a meritocracy is, Mike, for those who probably not understand it. Well, the history major you are. A
meritocracy is basically that it's based on merit, based on what you can accomplish, and for the teams that make the most money in this league, they should be able to spend it. Like in Major League Baseball, who spends the most money? The big market teams. Who earns the most money? The big market teams. So they should be able to spend it.
Also doesn't have they have 15 teams that can't compete every year.
Yeah, every year.
Well, then compete. There's nothing that's
but that money. I mean, no one's going to make the kind of money the Yankees are making.
They're all billionaires, Russ.
I know, but the reality is it just doesn't work that way.
No, but the reality is that those 15 teams only want to spend money up to a certain point so they can make money. If you want, like, okay, fine. In that instance, it's a capitalist system. But what I'm saying is, if you want to win, you got to spend the money. That's the reality in professional sport.
LTIR money is you're spending fake money.
No, I don't think that hockey works that way, to be honest. I really don't think hockey works that way. Hockey is a sport where it's not necessarily about the team that spends the most money. It rarely is. But to me, what's not fair is that, like a situation like coming on now. So going into the playoffs, going to the trade deadline, there's lots of teams out there that are on the brink of could be contenders. We have many contenders this year. We don't have a definite team that could win, right?
I'd say you have about 8.
Yeah, we have about 8 teams, which is more than I think we usually have. And there's a lot of really good teams.
I think 5 definitely.
I think there's 5 in the West.
There's 5. I'm not going to say that.
I think Florida is a definite contender in the East.
Florida, Boston, and New York in the East.
Maybe Florida and New York in the East. I think I'm still not sold on Boston as a playoff team, but we'll see. But this to me, all those teams are at a disadvantage now because they all make money. Those teams. I mean, Florida doesn't make money, although Florida is doing well for in attendance for a long time. But Vegas can sit there and they can just spend money like crazy, and they end up in a much different situation. I remember when for example, the Florida Panthers going against Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs a few years back. Kucherov comes back. That's a big difference there.
Yeah, that's a massive difference.
Peter Forsberg back with Colorado. I mean, but this is the issue. It's like, okay, I mean, we've had disparity in this league before, so why should it change?
No, they should set the loophole on this one. It shouldn't matter if a player's out. The player's out, and you shouldn't be able to use his money down the stretch to buy at the deadline, because all it does is save you from cap mismanagement. Because otherwise, you mismanage the cap. It does.
It's not cap mismanagement. It's bad luck when a player gets hurt.
Okay, so let's say
it depends on your situation, right? Like
it does. So let's just say, for argument's sake, Mark Stone does come back game 1 of the playoffs, right?
Sure.
They have no cap room to get a great player at the deadline without Mark Stone being out. But now him being out, they do. And then Mark Stone can play along with this great player that they pick up.
But okay, Ross,
Mike.
If we're saying that this has been manipulated, then the NHL has to have an independent medical evaluation. No, look, I'm serious. If you're saying this is being manipulated, then
it's not being manipulated. Again,
that's what you're saying. You're saying
it's not manipulation.
There are 3 or 4 guys every year that could go out with an injury at any time, but they gut it out. Now,
in the playoffs they do, but in the regular season,
no. Even in the regular season, there are guys that say, "Yeah, I could get this cleaned out now, or I can get it done at the end of the year." Okay. Now there's a reason to get it cleaned out now.
Every team has players that are hurt. Every player is hurt basically in the NHL. And so if you're in the situation where your team's definitely in the playoffs and you make a lot of money, why not take the time off? Your team's going to be better,
right?
And you can rehabilitate. Now I'm not saying these guys are fake hurt. I'm just saying that everybody is hurt, and the reality is that the playoffs started in March, they would be back. If the playoffs starts in April, they're back. So the reality is they're back when the playoffs start. So that to me, it just doesn't make any sense that they'd be suddenly ready for the first game of the playoffs.
Right.
That is just
he might not be ready for the first game of the playoffs, but he might be ready at some point during the playoffs. So it's like you don't know for sure. I mean, I don't think Mark Stone went out there and had somebody say, "Hey, please bruise my spleen so I can miss time."
No, definitely not. But it doesn't hurt the team. And when players get hurt, injuries do hurt teams. They should hurt.
Right. And what I'm saying is okay, after March the 8th, if somebody gets hurt, you're screwed. But now, because it's before March the 8th, you have some ability to adjust. But after March 8th, if Mark Stone broke a leg, they're effed.
Sure.
Right. All right. Well, let's get to some of the rumors. Now, a couple of players that could end up there. The Vegas is on my rumor chart, which is going strong. Updated 14 players today. One of the guys that Vegas is strong on is Jay Gensel. Now, that makes just a ton of sense. To me, that's a guy that Pittsburgh is going to move. That's a guy that plays a fast-paced game like Vegas plays. It's it's really kind of like the perfect fit for them.
The only thing, Pittsburgh's not going to make a deal till the very last minute. They're still in it.
Yeah, they're still in it. They are, and but there is
against Philly, Mike. I mean, that's a 4-point swing for them.
I know, Russ, but they have the most games left. They only have 55 games played, so they have five. They have 5 games in hand on Tampa and 3 games in hand on Detroit. But they're 9 points behind.
I get it, but they have the games in hand. So I'm just saying
this is act with the New York Islanders.
No, it's not, because the Penguins have way more talent than the Islanders had, and the reality is the Penguins know how to win for short periods of time. They can figure out a way to be good, really, really good for a month, and we've seen this with this Penguins team for a long time.
Carry the team himself for a month if he gets hot.
And they're the only
before, like the Penguins. That's the Penguins. Penguins' MO is they're a streaky team. That's what they have been for many years.
And they're the only team that's not in the playoffs right now with a positive goal differential. I get that. But I'm
saying, Gensel's on the market too. I do.
Well, okay. Russ got hurt yesterday, so that's one thing that's bad. Another thing is, they're talking trade about everybody except Crosby, Malkin, Letang. And maybe Carlson. So, but Russ got hurt, and that was one guy that maybe you wanted to trade, but he's got a long-term deal. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're Kyle Dubas and you've got a crumbling team there with a lot of old players, if you're this far out in 3 or 4 more days, you trade everything you can. You replenish the.
You're only giving it 3 to 4 days. They're going to give it longer than that.
I know, but okay. I'm sure he's doing his due diligence and laying the groundwork for moving these guys in case. But I'm just saying right now, if you're 9 points out on the weekend, you start. I'm not saying dump. I'm saying you have a lot of draft capital that you've moved out over the years. You can get a first and a couple probably extra picks for Gensel. You do it.
I will make you happy. I think by Sunday they'll know, because they're playing the Canucks, the Kraken, the Flames, and the Oilers. So that trip of theirs will tell you what's happening.
Yeah, that's a very serious group of games.
Elliot Friedman's saying they're going to trade one of their goaltenders. It's probably going to be Nedeljkovic, because they're not going to trade. But Russ, he's actually having a good year. I mean, for a team that's.
No, I know, but Jerry's Sullivan's guy. So unless you're getting rid of Sullivan, Jerry's not going anywhere.
Right.
No, Jerry's not going anywhere. They said it's either Nedeljkovic or the prospect that they got, Bloomquist, and it makes more sense.
Yeah, they're not going to trade Bloomquist.
They're going to trade Nedeljkovic. I mean, there's talk about Marcus Pettersson. There's talk about Gensel. I mean, honestly,
Pettersson could be a good get for somebody.
Yeah, he's got another year.
He's a good defensive defenseman. He skates well.
Right.
Yeah. Now, speaking of defensemen, Drysdale goes down for the Flyers, and that now puts the whole Walker Sealer thing into really an interesting spot.
Can I ask? I mean, a lot of people have reported about them trading both of these guys in the same deal. I don't know if you have that, but a lot.
I haven't really heard that one.
Yeah, but honestly, are you kidding me with that? I can't even count on one hand a team trading 2 defensemen as a defensive pairing at the deadline. It makes no sense. You get more assets if you trade them separately rather than trade them as a pair.
No, but I think X saying now that one of them may not get traded.
Yeah, I mean,
Drysdale's down, and I disagree with that. I'm like, now look, I still think Torts is going to get Sealer re-signed no matter what was happening with the Flyers. But if I'm the Flyers, hey, even if Drysdale's out, you have to trade Walker. You don't know what he's going to be beyond this year.
Yeah,
he's right now. He's at his height. If you don't trade Walker and you don't make the playoffs, this will be talked about for a decade.
It's an absolute unmitigated disaster if you do that. I'm sorry.
Well, unless you sign him and you extend him, and then he becomes a solid player for the next 5 years. Like that at a certain. If you sign him for a certain price. Like Sean Walker should sign with the Flyers. I mean, he's in the best position he can be in the NHL, probably. He's
34 in 5 years. You really want Sean Walker at 34?
34-year-old defenseman like him.
This is different.
We've talked about.
For me, it is.
Russ and I have talked about this over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes sense in terms of them signing Walker is if they think they can move Ristolainen in the summer.
Right.
If they can do that, then okay, fine. You're signing a more mobile better offensive guy, and Ristolainen is not the defenseman he was 5 or 6 years ago. Other than that, if you're a team that's, quote, in a rebuild, which they say that they are, okay, you'd love to make the playoffs. But if you're in a rebuild and you don't know that you can sign this guy, you've got to trade him. You cannot keep him. It's it's managerial.
I think that the situation is, Mike, they won't be in that spot. Like, they will know whether they can re-sign him or not. Right. It's just a matter of whether or not they want to. I think the Flyers feel like they can re-sign Walker. I feel like they.
So, Eck, here's my question for you: you want him for 3 years, or you want him for 5 years, whatever? You going to pay Sean Walker $4.5 million?
Yeah, I am, because. But we've talked about NHL defensemen. How many times have we talked about NHL defensemen? $5 million as an NHL defenseman.
I can bring up Ronnie Attard next year, and he's at the NHL minimum. Why am I paying this guy $4.5? Yeah. And he's going to slow up the development of my other future players. Why am I doing that?
Well, I mean, but is he really going to slow up the development of your other
I just said Ronnie Attard, I think, could be up next.
No, I think Ronnie Attar's still coming up. I mean, I don't think that they need more defensemen than just. I mean,
if you have.
I mean, Cam York's going to stay, obviously. Not D'Angelo.
Sanheim, York,
Drysdale. He's still injured.
Sanheim, York, Drysdale.
Those three are the three are definites.
Ristolainen.
He's iffy, but we talked about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, right now you have to assume, it's either one or the other. But I'm assuming a lot that they can move him.
Right.
I think that, and you can't just have a sixth. To me, you can bring in Adler as a seventh guy for a bit and get him used to the game. You don't have to necessarily.
But you want him playing all the time. You want him as a future second pairing defenseman. You don't want him.
Oh, for sure.
Look, this is what they've been doing to Zamula, and they may end up trading Zamula, and he's got some future on him.
Yeah, I don't understand them not playing Zamula. To be honest,
they played Mark Stahl over Zamula.
Yeah, this is what I don't get. I don't get the Stahl. I don't get the Stahl thing over. A lot of my friends are. And they know who they are if they're watching the show.
Clearly,
I know who they are. They message me too.
Anybody who's not playing on the Flyers right now is because of one guy. It's because of Torts. If Torts doesn't like the guy, he's not playing, and that's dumb. Because
what they did, Mike. This is the crazy part. They not only you lose to the Rangers, fine, right? It was a great game, toss-up game. You played Stahl in that game. Now you're playing Stahl back-to-back. In Pittsburgh. What does Pittsburgh do when Mark Stahl's out there? They put the Crosby line out there.
All the time.
Sure.
No, I mean, and I have nothing against Stahl. I mean, I like Stahl a lot, but
he's a nice guy, but he's done.
He doesn't have the speed to play. Doesn't have speed to play the playoffs for sure. I wouldn't. In the playoffs, he would be a mess. I can't.
But he was done last year, and he played on a team that went to the Cup final. But he was done last year.
Yeah, but you're right, and they played him very limited time. They really spaced him in the right ways.
Yeah, they put him on the PK, which
is fine. Yeah, or when you're trying to hold a lead at the very end, but he's not going to help you in other situations than that.
But remember, last year in the playoffs, they were playing Montour 29 minutes.
Yeah,
that was because they were playing Stahl 11.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I do think Sealer is more likely to be the one that they keep. I think I agree with you on that, Russ. Yeah. I think that's not just because George likes him, because he generally is.
Because he's cheap. He'll be cheap. I bet you they get him.
He's younger too, but he also has just a lot of abilities that they really do like.
I'll bet you they get Sealer signed for under $1.5 million on a multiple year deal.
1.5, 2 at most.
Oof. I mean, we're looking at what most defensemen are making in the NHL. That's just even the top. The top.
Well, that's the Tortorella tax. It's I like them.
I'll say another thing that I believe is happening out here, and I believe that the media is sort of helping this narrative to help the Flyers. I think they're saying, hey, Walker and Sealer could go on a package deal because nobody wants Nick Sealer on his own, or they're not giving the Flyers anything that they could use for Nick Sealer on his own.
It's a 5th-round pick for Nick Sealer. It's then keep him. Then keep him.
Right. No, they are. I don't totally disagree with that, Russ. I think you're probably right about that.
Now, okay, so moving off the Flyers, I found something interesting at the arena today because, Eric Johnson's not going to get you a 1st-round pick. He's a 35-year-old defenseman. He's probably retiring at the end of the year, but he's still an effective right shot, big guy, physical. and contenders are apparently interested. And he came out today.
For sure.
He came out today and basically said, well, if Kevin Adams comes to me and says, we'd like to move you here, that he's open to it. Now, he doesn't have any no trade protection, but with a guy at the end of his career, if he said, I'm not going or I don't want to go, then they wouldn't do it. So he's on board. So I think probably 85% he's getting moved. The interesting thing, Eck, is that Vegas has been in Buffalo in terms of scouts, probably 5 of the last 6 games. But the weird thing is, I think they're going more for forwards than they are defense because all their defense is back. Like Theodore just came back. So, teams like Boston or Tampa or Florida or Colorado, you can't underestimate the possibility that, Colorado, who loved him, and they just don't want to sign him for what he could get in free agency, that at the deadline they might want him back. So
everybody's loved him that's ever had him. He's St. Louis. He was a legend in St. Louis too. Just the reality is, he
got hurt. That was the thing.
He's been one of those guys, and he definitely seems like the kind of guy that would fit into like an LA Kings team or something like that, or something like where you need, or even a Maple Leafs team, like where you could use some actual depth defensemen who have experience. That just never hurts to have in the playoffs. It's just
and Mikey Anderson got hurt with the Kings. I don't know how serious it is, but I think they said it was week to week. With the Leafs, I do think that, and this is not an insult toward Johnson, but he's been bottom pairing for the Sabres because they have power and Dahlin, and those guys eat the minutes. I think he's capable of playing a little more, but the Leafs are looking for a right shot, which he is, but somebody who can play in the top 4 with Morgan Riley. And I don't know if Johnson can do that. I
would worry. You already have 40-something, Giordano.
Right.
And you got Eric Johnson at the end of his career. They need something a little better than that. Honestly.
Right, which is why I'm linking, and this is not by anything I've heard. I'm just looking at the Leafs and who they were interested in and what they could afford. That's why I'm linking them to Matt Dumba, because they talked to Dumba over the summer.
Dumba makes sense. I agree.
And Dumba could play with Riley, and that would be a really good fit.
Dumba is a good pickup for them, because Dumba would help them in a series like against Florida. Florida again, that would be something that they could really use. I know the Flyers also had serious interest in Dumba over the summer, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Flyers as a buyer could pick up a guy like that. That's the kind of player they could go get, because he doesn't affect your rebuild. But if you think if you're going to make one move,
if you get him for 2 years, that's fine. But you don't get. Here's the thing, and this is the mistake they made last summer. If, let's say, Walker gets dealt, now you're going to get Dumba. Now you're blocking another spot again for another young player. Why? Why would you do that?
Potentially, but just 1 year, like you're saying, it's one more year, and the reality,
1 year, fine. But
the reality, So Dumba's not he's not going to be around for very long.
Well, no, but he probably He signed a 1-year deal in Arizona because he was looking for over $5 million a year. He priced himself out of the market. He was asking for $5 million from Toronto. They played Klingberg because he was cheaper and it could help on the power play. And then he got hurt. And then in the end, the market dried up and he ended up taking a 1-year deal in Arizona for $3.9 million. And he's probably playing golf all year. Now it's time to go to work.
Yeah, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to want to not be in the playoffs. So if you have a chance to move, if you have a chance to move him somewhere, he will. And
I think he'd be a valuable ad for
definitely valuable ad for almost anybody. I think Florida will be after him too. I know Florida. I know the one thing that
fit in that though. Honestly, they're going to have to get a third team involved, aren't they?
Probably, but they've been pretty creative in the past. It's very possible. They've also been a third team for other teams, so they have some favors. That's the other thing you have to remember.
Flyers, because the Flyers said they would wash a contract. So
something like that. Remember I think the one thing Florida is missing this team versus last year's team that went really far in the playoffs is that Radko Gudas type player, which is what you get with Dumba to a degree. You get he's better than Gudas, but he's he still gives you that really he's going to he'll scare people. He will.
But honestly, though, I looked at Florida and I looked at what I think they need, and defensively now with everybody, unless they're concerned about Montour and Ekblad going down because they were injured for half the year,
right?
Unless that's the case, they need forward help. They've got 4 forwards that are the scorers. They've got Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart, and Kachuk. And then after that, it drops off the planet. I think they need another forward. That's why I would like a Tarasenko or a Duclair or somebody like that. But I don't think they can do both moves. And I think defensively, they're good enough. I mean, right now, Anthony Stolarz has got a goals against under 2. Yeah. And Bobrovsky's one of the best goalies in the league. I don't think they need a blue liner. I think they need forwards.
It's not that they need a blue liner as much as they don't have a real gritty blue liner.
Well, Mikkola, he's
pretty. Yeah, he is, but no, it's true.
He played for the Rangers.
Mikkola, he's actually pretty effective.
He is playing that role
for short minutes. He can't play a lot of minutes.
But I don't think he quite has the same role that
No, but right. Gudas was playing top 4 minutes, and the thing is, Gudas should never play top 4 minutes. He's physically fine.
Yeah,
but as a defenseman, he's a liability playing top 4 minutes. He's a great 5-6. He is not a great 3-4.
Well, yeah, but last year in the playoffs, he became a great 3-4. Like he definitely stepped up to that level, which was surprising on many levels. But he did he played the Darius Kasparaitis role. He played the pain in the ass on the second pairing. And in the playoffs you can get away with it, but I don't think as he gets older, you can't do that. You need somebody with more mobility. So the Seattle Kraken are, they're on the edge right now of falling out too, and they are in a spot right now where the Jordan Eberle thing is going to be what you're going to want to watch out of that situation.
Right.
Because, I've heard a lot that Edmonton's really interested in getting him back.
Right.
I do think that that's possible. I do think Seattle would like to sign him, and I could see maybe him going to Edmonton and then signing back in Seattle in the summer. Because
listen, if I was trading Eberle, I'd be asking for like Ryan McLeod or somebody like that I could use long term.
Right.
Because the Islanders need a good kick in the what. They've got to clear out these older guys like Clutterbuck and Matt Martin. I know what they mean to the neighborhood and everything else, but you know what? They're not helping them.
Honestly, Russ, they're screwed because they've only got 2 guys to sell in Clutterbuck and Martin, like you said. They've got a ton of term. They can't score. The best thing about them is their goaltender. They need to make hockey.
They have 2 really good goalies.
Barzal's he's come had a good year too. Like he's definitely been back.
But to change the narrative with the Islanders, they need to make a hockey deal. And I'm not saying Lou isn't capable of making a hockey deal. He is, but what he's trying to work with is, not there's the pieces are not great there. It's like, okay, you want to trade Brock Nelson or Palmieri or Pajot? Okay, good luck.
Yeah, nobody wants
Pajot. Nobody wants them.
Yeah.
But going back to Seattle, I think Eberle is definitely the one that's going to attract the most attention, but second on that, and you have to follow that center market right now, which is almost non-existent after Adam Henrique. A guy like Wenberg, if they drop out, Wenberg is somebody that teams like the Rangers or the Bruins may say, okay, we can fit him in as a number 2 or a number 3 and improve our center depth. There are not many centers out there. The guy from Nashville that you mentioned last week, Novak, he's one of them. Wenberg, Henrique, and then maybe Tyler Johnson, and then that's it.
And Lawton,
Lawton's got term, and that's why I think that deal. Yeah, same with Casey.
But it's reasonable term for what you're getting for him. So
right, but it's a question of what you think Lawton is. Russ, you see him more than I do. I don't see him more than as maybe between 3-4. And
no, that's what he is, and he's a fiery guy. Right, you have him out at the penalty kill in a playoff series. He might get a shorthanded goal.
I don't think he's out on the I'm better. I put him more between a 2-3 than a 3-4.
No.
I do. I think he's definitely a 3 who can step up and play a 2. And
if he plays a 3 regular minutes, he does get exposed a little bit. He does, and I think because of the Flyers, he gets used in situations that he doesn't normally get used. That he can come through for a team. But when you start doing him every day, like if he plays against a team that has 3 massive centers, and you're expecting him to play 3C, he's going to wear down it.
Right. Yeah. So.
Maybe.
That's a deal that can wait till the summer. He's making $3 million, which I think hurts him in terms of at the deadline, because the teams that might want to add him, like the Rangers, might not have $3 million in cap space to make that deal. But I think in the summer, I think it makes sense. Just like Casey Middlestat, the thing that hurts him in Buffalo is not his salary. It's the fact that the Sabres want to make a hockey deal if they trade him. And nobody wants to make a hockey deal now. None of the
Middlestat and Lutton they're different players, night and day.
Oh yeah, no, they're completely different. But I'm just saying the situation is one, the situation is salary. The other one is situation is the return. And Buffalo doesn't want prospects and draft picks. They want tangible assets. And nobody right now, nobody who's a contender wants to trade a top 4 defenseman for a number 2 center because they need that top 4 defenseman in the playoffs.
I was also told tonight's game between the Kings and the Oilers is a big game to watch for the Kings and whether or not they go out and get a goalie. Like the Kings they're playing well. They're on the verge of they've improved, but
they're still wobbly to me. They have more points lately, but they're still wobbly.
They're still wobbly, and they definitely need a solid
goalie. Okay, so let's see. Merzlikins, Saros, Markstrom,
Jake Allen.
Well,
I put Jake Allen in that category too.
Well, I mean, he's a hole plug. He's not a solution. I think
there are people who believe he is. He could actually. He's a good enough goalie to take them. Like and I'm not totally sold that he isn't. Like I mean, like Jake Allen, I think put in the right spot, like he could carry a team for a while.
I would say Blake doesn't strike me as a guy that would want Saros. I think he's old school. I don't think the height thing. I think the height thing would be.
But the height thing is definitely affecting New Jersey. I was told with Saros. Like the Devils don't think he would make it in the Metro Division. I don't.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I could see Jake Allen in LA. I agree with Eck on that one.
Yeah.
What about Merzlikins?
Look, they could go for him, but I think Jake Allen's at least more accomplished than Merzlikins. He's played in the playoffs before. He's been a number 1 in the past.
Well, okay, if you
way more consistent, way more solid. Like he's way what you're getting more with Jake Allen, which is
right.
way.
If you don't want to expend the assets necessary to get yourself a legitimate number 1 goaltender, then Jake Allen is a stopgap because you probably end up having to pay maybe a 2nd round pick for Jake Allen because right now Montreal's got Caden Primo and they got Montembeault, so really Jake Allen's an extra piece that they can just trade for assets. And they can retain salary on the. I think he's making 3.7 or something like that.
Right.
3.85. So if they retained half of that, then that's 1.9. And teams. But I just don't know. I mean, I don't think he's a bad goaltender. I just don't think he's a difference maker.
He's not playing on a good team. We could start.
No, he's not. He's not.
It's really hard to say. I mean, the thing with him has been when he's been put into pressure situations, he has tended to succeed. Like he has been more successful. I mean, with the exception, St. Louis Blues fans are probably throwing things at their computer because there were moments early in his career with the Blues in the playoffs where he was.
Yeah, I was going to say, but in Montreal when he stepped in for Price for a time, he played well.
He was really good, and and in St. Louis, even though Jake Allen wasn't winning playoff series for him, I felt like he really wasn't losing them as much as some of my Blues friends believe he was. I really felt like they were hanging him out a lot. Like the Blues were leaving him out to dry quite a bit.
He was the modern day Roman Turek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Markstrom is an interesting one for sure. We've talked about it too.
And that's and
they can't afford him.
Who, New Jersey or LA?
LA.
No, I think Markstrom is going to New Jersey. It's just a question of whether Calgary will retain and whether they give them enough in terms, like we've said Holtz.
I'm going to say this. Since we know that Markstrom has agreed to go to New Jersey,
right?
And since we know that they've been talking for over a week, I mean, you can't let this. New Jersey's on the clock, man.
They've been talking
since this go any longer.
They've been talking since the All-Star break. That's a month.
Even before that, I mean, even into the last summer. Honestly, I mean, they've been talking for a while. The question is, it's a game of chicken right now, And
at this point, if I were Josh Harris, the owner, I would tell Fitzgerald, just get this done.
Get it done because I agree because the Devils aren't making the playoffs if they're not careful. And and they really have. I mean, it's starting to look more like you could have 5 teams from the Atlantic, which is
it's possible.
And if that happens, then the Devils are out of luck, perhaps.
Yeah, I just think they have to make this trade by the weekend. Like, I just don't think they can let any more season tick by here.
Well, okay, the gap is. I mean, more than likely they're shooting for the Flyers. Because I don't think, I mean, because Tampa Bay's got 69. They've been playing great lately. Detroit's been red hot. They've won 5 in a row. They got 70 points. Philadelphia is the one that's within range. And if Drysdale is hurt seriously, then.
Right. No, that's who they would definitely shoot for. But I mean, I think they still play the Flyers once. So the point is, but they have to get it done now.
Right.
They can't you can't. The point is this: if I were the owner, I'd be like, listen. I'll call him Fitzy, right? Because nobody has a good nickname.
Right.
You don't have to win this trade. We need to get in the playoffs. Just get it done.
Yeah, just don't get destroyed in the trade.
Just get it done. You don't have to win this trade.
But honestly, there's one team in the West, one team in the East. Both are in similar situations, LA and New Jersey. Yeah. And in both situations, somebody's job is on the line. In New Jersey, if they miss the playoffs, probably Ruff is fired. And if LA misses the playoffs or gets eliminated in the first round again by Edmonton or something like that, Rob Blake is out of a job.
Yeah, look, this is like an episode of American Pickers. You walk in, Mike Wolf walks in, and he says, you know what? I know you're asking for $285 for this lamp. I'm going to give it to you because I want to break the ice and whatever. And that's what needs to happen here. Yeah. It's like you can't always win what you're bargaining for. And honestly, New Jersey needs it more than Calgary needs them because Markstrom could go somewhere else if they really try.
Yeah, and you're not going to crack open that lamp and find the Hope Diamond inside of it.
No.
So.
Well, the issue also is that but what I've been understanding, Calgary's been kind of a moving target with this, and that's something that's tricky because, Calgary's prices changed drastically.
And you threaten to walk away. That's what you do as New Jersey.
And I think New Jersey has done that, but I think at the end of the day, these two teams, the only teams that are interested in each other are each other. So they realize that they're playing this game.
Well, I mean, in a way, I would really hate to have been Craig Conroy during this entire season because he is okay. He's trading 5 assets. First Zadorov, then Lindholm. Now it's Tanev, Hanifin, and Markstrom. And he's going to trade Hanifin and he's going to trade Tanev. I think the first one to go off the board is going to be Tanev for one simple reason. They are deathly afraid of him getting hurt. And he's a shot blocker, and he could break a finger or a hand on one shot. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded in the next 48 hours.
And my source says that the team that has the best offer on the table for him right now is Toronto. And that's
Toronto's not offering a first round pick. I know that.
I don't know what they're offering, but I just know.
I know that for sure. I know
the best offer on the table is them now. That being said, the word is that there is a first round pick out there for Tanev. So if Toronto's not offering it, then maybe Toronto's doing something else to fill that gap. But there's it's possible they're coming up with another way.
It could be a future draft pick and a guy like Nick Robertson or somebody like that. I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's going to be something pretty significant from what I understand. But it's going to, and I think Tanev is the perfect fit for them, for the Leafs. And
right. But and believe me, the Tanev talk has been there all year. The problem is that the perception around Toronto is that Tanev is going there in the summer, that he's going to that they're the leading candidate to sign him in the summer. So why would you trade a tangible?
Because you don't want to waste another playoff run.
Right.
But
you have Marner, Tavares, getting younger.
And this is maybe Brad Treliving can't think this way, or Brendan Shanahan can think this way. And I look at that team, and they've won 7 games in a row. They're the hottest that they've been all year. They're not winning the Stanley Cup. They're not getting by Florida or Boston or the Rangers. So don't waste your assets.
Yeah, I don't think they're a team that you can say they're not getting by anybody. I mean, the reality is that they haven't gotten by people in the past, but they're also such a powerhouse of an offense that they could get by anybody at any point. So they're a tough team they're a real tough team to pick. Like if they get hot, for some reason, if they get hot at the right time and Samsonov gets hot at the right time,
well, they
can take out anybody.
It won't be Samsonov either. It'll be Joseph Wall probably.
wherever. I mean, what if they get a hot goalie? I mean, if Marner and my gosh, look at what they're doing there right now with scoring. They're and the defense that they're putting up. The defense they're putting up is pretty incredible. So
I don't believe in the Leafs, even if they make a good trade. Honestly,
Yeah, no, I mean, and
I just don't.
no,
there's no reason to believe in them, Russ. I agree with you, but at the same time, that you can't deny what they have there. They
okay. I'm not denying the talent that they have, and I'm not casting.
They're playing better defensively than they played in a long time.
I'm not casting aspersions on their character. But what I'm saying is, there is no deal that they can make at the deadline, even if they add Tanev, and Tanev would partner with Riley, and then they'd have 3 solid defensive pairings. Yeah. There is no trade that they can make at the deadline to convince me that they're better than Florida or better than Boston or better than the Rangers.
If you don't think they could beat either one of those teams, you don't do the lay out the assets. Last season, sure, they had to get the monkey off their back. They did,
right?
But if you don't think you could beat those teams, why would you make that trade?
No, if you don't think you can beat, if you're Toronto, you're insane if you don't think you can beat those teams.
Well, okay, then they're lying to themselves.
Closed doors, I think they do.
But there's the thing is, and every general manager breaks out their abacus or whatever the hell, it's on asset management. If you can trade a 3rd round pick and a prospect to get Matt Dumba, or it's trading a first to get Chris Tanev, you do the Dumba deal because the cost is less, and I think that the effect would be basically the same. Then you sign Tanev in the offseason, and you don't give up anything for him. You don't give up your 1st round pick. You don't trade Fraser Minton or Easton Cowan or any of your top prospects for a guy that you're going to sign anyway. It's just stupid.
And the other thing is, you can start going into turmoil right in the end of the season with the whole Marner thing. Even though Marner controls his fate, it doesn't mean the team's not going to try and talk to him and try and trade him. And who knows what would come out of that.
No, Russ, the funny thing is, I mean, we've heard all this chatter, but that was before Marner got absolutely red hot. Like this week, he's 2nd star of the week. I don't know how Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan can say, oh, we're not going to sign him.
He goes scoreless in 7 playoff games.
Oh, sure. Right. I mean, right. But if he has a big playoff, they're stuck just like.
No, he is a big playoff.
I mean, he's a great player. He's one of the top 10
he
players.
Is, but look, it doesn't matter. At some point, something's got to change in Toronto the same way things have had to change in Edmonton just to get any kind of traction, because otherwise you're just spinning your wheels, even with these great players.
No, I do agree with that, but that's why I think you have to go for it when you can. Like I don't think you can sit back and say, well, yeah, we'll have Tanev for free next year. The reality, waste a year where Matthews could score 70 goals like that. The reality of that, like,
right, but
you have to go for it.
But is the difference between Tanev and either Dumba or a Labushkin or someone like that, the difference between you making, winning a round or not winning a round? I don't think so. I think pretty much they do the same thing. So why waste the asset to get the player when you're going to get that player next year, and you can do something short term that costs you less?
Well, X giving you the argument that anybody could win if you get lucky. So that's why you make the trade.
Well, yeah.
I just don't buy it. I don't think there's that much luck involved anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
I do.
I mean,
honestly, Florida was lucky last year. I mean, I think Florida got lucky.
They had good personnel.
Yeah,
they had good personnel too. But I mean, there were other teams that Boston had great personnel and they got unlucky.
If you want to say they got lucky in net, I might have said that last year, but Bob is back on track.
Boston.
I'm not saying. I mean, they got lucky to get out of the Boston series. There's no choice about that.
Wait. Boston had great personnel, but Bergeron got hurt in the last regular season game.
Yeah, and that's part of the Florida's luck. I mean, that's part of Florida's luck. The reality is
right, but okay.
I'm not saying Florida wasn't a good enough team to get to the finals. I'm just saying that you have to get lucky to get to the finals. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, no, good fortune.
But if we're talking about the Leafs making this trade and getting to the finals, I'm just going to sign off now. There's no point in having a further conversation.
Why couldn't they? I mean, without this trade, they can get to the finals.
Oh, my God.
Did Mike leave?
Kidding.
Right there, Mike.
No,
without this trade, I mean, they're as good as anybody in the East.
Heck, why don't you just get a shirt that says, why not us? Put it in Leafs blue and wear it during the playoffs.
I don't like the Leafs.
As somebody who was a Leaf fan, who has covered the team for 15 years, No, they're not. Now, are they a good team? Yes, they're a perennial playoff team. Are they a Stanley Cup contender? Not a friggin' chance. No, they're
Nobody's
not.
a Stanley Cup contender, Mike. You're insane. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to win the Stanley Cup. I'm not saying they're Stanley Cup favorite, but they have a 70-point. They have maybe a 70-goal score, and they've got the best top four lines that they've had. They've got a goalie who's half decent, and they're playing better defense than they've played in 5 years.
They're going to waste a 70-goal year of Austin Matthews because they're not good enough. I'm just saying, right now there are four teams in the East that have a legitimate chance to make the Stanley Cup final. That's Florida, Boston, the Rangers, and maybe Carolina if they get themselves a goaltender. Yeah, other than that, it's no friggin' way. Sorry, it's not happening.
I just think you're afraid of it to happen, Mike.
No, I'm not afraid of anything. Believe me, I've been hardened by disappointment.
I get that. I get that for sure.
You're not afraid of anything.
I'm not afraid of anything.
That's such a lie.
I'm sure you've been, and you have been hardened, and rightfully so. I'm
afraid of ketchup, Russ. That's what I'm afraid of.
Okay, well, that's
reality from an outside perspective is that they are definitely good enough. They're definitely better. They definitely have more talent than Carolina, and more talent than Boston too. But they sit back, and
you're looking at it through the prism of the four players, and if it's
I'm looking at this. This is the most balanced I think they've been, Mike. I think they actually made some good moves in the summer, and I think they really are. I mean, I like a lot of their players now.
Bertuzzi hasn't played good until the last.
Starting to play better. They bring in this kid together there as a hat trick, right?
Bobby McMahon, who's a fourth line. I mean, I like Bobby McMahon, and
he looks like he has potential to do more than that too. Like they have players. They didn't have that before. Their third and fourth lines were interchangeable AHL players for a couple of years. Now their third and fourth liners, they feel like they're NHLers.
Well,
they have at least 5 really good defensemen, which they haven't had.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I mean, they have maybe 3 good defensemen.
You said if they got Tanev, they've got 3 solid pairs.
Well, okay. They would have Tanev and Riley. Not to turn this into a Leaf conversation because I know
it's too late.
They'd have Tanev and Riley. They'd have Brody and Liljegren, and then the third pairing is Jake McCabe and Simone Benoit. So those are better than they've had.
No, that's doable though. It's doable because you don't have to play Benoit more than 10 minutes. So
they're better than they've had, and that's the point. I mean, they have been contenders in other years, so why are they better than they've had and not contenders now?
Because the other teams are going to have to beat the same teams that they can't beat.
Right. Boston is not as good as they were before.
It doesn't matter.
If Boston gets a center or they get a defenseman, they're better.
It's like right now. Okay, right now. Right now, with Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle as their top 2 centers, the Bruins have beaten them every time this year. There's a mental block there. They can't.
Yeah, but they're not. Those 2 top centers are not better than the Leafs' top 2 centers.
No, but they're still beating them.
They're beating them. I know, but the other thing, but that not recently as well. Like I've seen something. I've seen some growth with this team this year for the first time in a while. Like I've seen them be able. I think the loss of Morgan Riley made them a better defensive team
that may be true.
Yeah, but then they lost Morgan Riley last year. He came back, and then they started to play fast and loose offensively, and then they ended up losing. Now it's not Morgan Riley's fault; it's the team's fault. They're basically they don't get it out of their head. That's the way that they have to play. They want to play, high octane all the time, and that doesn't win playoff games.
Yeah, I mean,
but
we'll see. I mean, we'll see. But you can't eliminate them. Of like, there's no.
I'm not eliminating them, but I'm just saying.
I'm eliminating them.
Okay, well, there's the rest is eliminating them.
But okay,
cup contention. They're not going to make the cup. No,
but the Hanifin thing. The Hanifin thing to me is fascinating.
Hanifin is a good one, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Hanifin's overrated. Like, I really feel like I was.
Are you expecting a lot of offense out of him?
No, but I was expecting more from him, and I think that people still have the impression that he is more than he is.
Because he's got 11 goals this year, Russ. So it's like he's getting.
No, I mean that's as much offense as I think you're ever going to get. Right. But look, he's a really good skater. He is a smart defenseman. He's reliable. He's probably averaging over 20 minutes a game.
Right.
Like, what else are you looking for? I think he's.
No, I mean you're not. I mean, I guess I'm still going back to what I was expecting from him, and it was more than that. But the reality is he has turned into a really serviceable defenseman. I get that. But he's very serviceable, very much like
he's an upgrade. Like he's an automatic second pairing guy for most teams.
Yeah,
right. For some teams he might even be top pairing. So,
right.
But
no, there's no question about that. I think that what they're asking for Hanifin feels like it's way too much. Like,
he's averaging almost 24 minutes a game. He's got 11 goals, and he's a plus 14 on a bad Calgary team. So they should be
really in terms of like if Tanev's 80 and 80 out of 100 or whatever defensively, where do you put Hanifin? Like as far as
they're different types of defensemen.
No, but
87.
Okay,
better than that.
Let's use Stratomatic.
87. That's
we're gonna lose our audience here, but let's use Stratomatic terms as X so we can.
Right.
I would say Tanev is a 2 on offense and a 4 on defense, and Hanifin is a 3 on offense and a 3 on defense. They're different types of defensemen.
Right.
Now, I think, but the thing is, right now in the playoffs, a bigger defenseman who can skate, who can score. I mean, if you're asking a first round pick for Tanev, you're asking for a first plus for Hanifin.
And he's also got 27 games of playoff experience.
Right. No, he does. I mean, I'm not denying it. Well, there's a lot more to think about. We'll get back to this again on Wednesday. But remember, folks, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We are getting close to the make sure again that you check out, as always, the hockey buzz rumor chart. I really do spend a lot of time on it, and like I said, I've been telling people like $20 a year helps pay for a lot of things around here, and it also doesn't hurt to get the website ad free. I think that's the one thing that people don't realize how much better, how great it is. I mean, $20, no ads for a year. That's pretty darn good. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you soon.